Hello. Yeah, so I've moved basically. Um, I haven't been very well whatsoever, so I'm making this video on one of my favorite topics because yeah, I haven't had a chance to make a video in like a long time, and I really wanted to make a video about Vampirella, because she's like one of my favorite fantasy characters that I have invested the most, which is a minimal amount um, in the products that I have found, like with her artwork on it of her. So basically, yeah, this is my new room. Um, so I'm just gonna move my lighting because yeah, I like did my outfit to go with the whole Vampirella theme and dyed my hair and did my makeup and got like jewelry and a shirt. So yeah, basically, so that's my wardrobe. And that is my Vampirella comic book box, and it's amazing. It's on top of like this fake um, fireplace that was here, so I just thought like, oh well, isn't that appropriate? Um, okay. Anyway, so on to all of the research that I've done on this topic. Yeah, and just like put my lighting back. So Vampirella's first appearance was in 1969. Um, she has kind of like a controversial history, at least her character does. So she was created by Forrest J. Ackerman and Trina Robbins as a horror story hostess. And then she became like a character in her own right when she was first published by Warren Publications in the 80s and Harris Publications in the 90s. But they both like went bankrupt and had yeah, legal problems basically. So God, sorry, like my hair is still sizzling from the GHD that I purchased. Yeah, so now she belongs to Dynamite. Well, her reprint rights belong to Dynamite Publications. When she was first created, she was actually part of like the horror anthology. So she was part of publications like Creepy and Eerie that kind of just fell under that spectrum. Um, and yeah, so that's kind of what happened. So I have three of the comics. Um, I really like this character. I really like the comics. One second, I'll show you. This one is the Harris publication one, so it says Harris on there. That's the artwork, like very beautiful artwork. Um, this is a Dynamite cover. Once again, like amazing. I think because the whole point of like comic books is really supposed to make like artwork financially accessible to people. So like through like mass medium and capitalism, you didn't just have the paintings that were worth like I don't know like hundreds of thousands of pounds or like millions of pounds in the National Gallery. You could actually buy things like these. So yeah, my favorite one is this blood bag one. So the reason why I like it the most, apart from obviously like the design of the blood bag, is that the cover is covered in like acetate and it's like blood splatter. And yeah, once again, amazing artwork. I'm really not a fan necessarily of like the computerized artwork because I mean, at least I still draw everything by paper, and that's just my favorite medium. So yeah, basically, a lot of the controversy has been kind of misdirected at the wrong topic. I think as usual, rather than actually the like density or substance of information that there really is a lack of. Um, so yeah, I think I've seen I mean, obviously we have problems because in general, some comic book critics, they'll go on there and then they look at the cover and they're like, oh, um, the, this is a skimpy outfit, therefore they'll associate all, like, I think I saw one of them be like, oh, why is there a stripper on the cover? Obviously, having read the book, the person is aware that she's not. I've just like made my chin red. Okay. Oh, that might be because I'm like, just don't focus on that. Okay, so basically, yeah, because she's not. She's an excommunicated alien that was born in hell. And she becomes like a vampire queen on Earth. And she's also a psychopathic mass murderer because obviously having to live off of blood instead of water means that she commits a lot of like atrocities at first until she kind of like grows a conscience. But yeah, it is an interesting background, and obviously that was the whole point of like having an empowering female woman, that it's not just an overtly sexualized image. So obviously, you know, let's be a fan of the kind of constructive criticism we want to propagate. So there are different depictions in which, I mean, at first she basically keeps like these human beings, and she is a fantasy character ultimately, so it's not real. But obviously, you know, the fantasy does have to come into question because, you know, why this kind of, you know, vision. So she has humans like in chambers that she's kept so that she can drink blood and stay alive. But then she starts to be able to differentiate between human beings that perpetrate like evil criminal acts and ones that don't. So she starts to use, you know, her power for good, by basically taking vengeance on the situations where on Earth like justice isn't enacted. So she kind of stays alive off of the blood of like criminals, I guess. Yeah, so obviously she is, in that sense, then kind of like an insane character. Obviously, being psychopathic, she has technically, by human standards, like completely lost her mind. Obviously, if it weren't for being a fantastical, you know, creature, that kind of, you know, just lives within a narrative to an extent. So yeah, the controversy over the lack of suitable attire, the skimpy outfit, the fashion faux pas, you know, very bad press, like very, you know, I mean, I think because also she was associated to some covers that like people found offensive to the point where it was like it violated their eyes, like, or their what was going from like their visual senses into their mind, which is, you know, understandable. And it's also, you know, why I don't think there should necessarily, like, for purposes of like sales, I don't think they should make a teen Vampirella with like a more acceptable outfit that goes, you know, like it suggests like you know, uniform goes from one outfit to that outfit. No, like the her outfit, which I mean, like I think, I don't know, I'm quite understanding, I think, of, I like that basically she didn't change outfit throughout these entire decades. And also like it's basically a collar with like slashed blood suit. It's been described like red liquid. And I think that's an economic statement more so than anything on really like the mass production of things. And obviously her character is a bit different to like the subservient tradition of like what females were supposed to be, and this might be also retaliating to the notion of like the male tradition of war. So obviously there is the debate where it's like, oh yeah, sexualization combined with war, massive profits, like and obviously that shouldn't really be, you know, I kind of agree with like if that image alone affects somebody, um, then that's not a good thing. But obviously, like the whole idea of an art world is that something isn't being done in real life, and somebody has the artistic outlet. So I really am not part of that debate. Um, so yeah, um, you know, it does, and also it makes it difficult to understand where the criticism is like really aimed at. Um, so yeah, I'm just checking on to. So yeah, so basically, because of being an alien and like not being of this world, she finds it difficult to integrate into like the career prospects um, that are like human. But she does become a paranormal investigator and makes like very positive contributions to society, um, which I think is a great thing. I think another discussion that was raised was, oh, like it. Why is the consumption made for like the male gaze? So the whole like thing was like, oh, it's overly sexualized, therefore it's just like for men. Um, and also like it is strange, like why is it just like males that are like doing the drawings, that are, you know, being sold within like the main publications, since it's the image of a woman. And I think these are all like um good observations to point out, but you know, it kind of, I think, because Vampirella is already a good idea because it's like it's in the art sphere of things, and the artwork is actually quite innovative. I think constructive criticism or trying to understand like the business aspect of it is the most important thing. Um, so yeah, in the blood bag one, for instance, which I think once again it's a really interesting design, and also because it really points out to like um, the whole concept of like disease and combining that with covers. I think it's even got like this concept. So a lot of the work is by an artist called Art Derm. So um, you have different platinum foil logo, limited edition covers, process line art, charcoal cover, you know, glowing eyes, etc. So yeah, all, you know, interesting ideas, not very well researched. For instance, when she goes to see the trauma specialist, it's kind of like, I don't know if it's supposed to be a statement on anything, but the trauma specialist basically just tells her, like, he tells this fantastical character, like, that her fantasies aren't real, even though, like, you know, she's walking around doing her psychopathy. He tries to suggest that she goes on risperidone, which doesn't make scientific logical sense because obviously her body doesn't intake food and water like normal human bodies. It just intakes blood to survive. So would that even work on a vampire. So there really is, dealing with trying to, point things out that are logical and try to understand things. And there isn't much logic with that. Um, and also, it does kind of depict psychologists, obviously, because there are psychologists that are probably more worth listening to that actually do, like legal checks on people um, to see how their mental processes are, etc., before just offering them, drugs with um, side effects and whatnot. Um, so yeah, the criticism is that the psychologist is dismissive of the fantasy. Um, essentially, she is a mass murderer, but this is only a fantasy, and this does or does not qualify her as a complex character, because obviously substance is supposed to mean a lot of information. Um, even apparently, if, I mean, obviously, some people don't have access to that information. So, does that mean that they're not complex? No. But yeah, there's a lot of problems with the situation. So even though she's at the top of the food chain, her outfit still falls under even more scrutiny because of like sexism issues. I think if there were, we're hoping that like once again, outfits don't mean that people can become psychopaths or mass murderers. So I definitely don't blame the outfits. But then there must be more to the situation. So yeah, I've written a section which kind of goes more like it kind of like I try to make a few observations on the topic about vampire rights. So that they're spelt RITES. The disturbing displays of how imagination can be used. Because of on the basis of which criminal activity is not prevented on Earth. And yeah, the connotations of the existence of this of these acts being possible because they have happened, thereby combines the concept of violence with justice, which is like still a problem basically. Yeah, sorry, I'm just like I literally like I get nervous and it's like, well, not really, but anyway. So human history is plagued with these occurrences of immoral punishments and unjustified instances. So, yeah, there's that. I think this also is because people partake in uncivilized activities. So, a lot of what is displayed in there is just really people thinking that they're going to have power by enacting like terror, debasing human dignity, um, just finding the worst things possible to do so that they can basically be like the most like evil. Yeah, even like things like cannibalism. So which I mean, obviously, like vampirism has connotations of. However, these things are really dangerous because they can spread disease. It will lead to physical and mental health problems. Some, yeah, definitely like irreversible as well, possibly. So, that's why it's like kind of best to steer away from things that aren't ethical. And yeah, just not entertain them, I guess. So, there are dangerous kind of concepts, they are dangerous concepts to be propagated without considering the effects. And yeah, I mean, it's a constant, debate, not necessarily a discussion or whatever. So yeah, this results in partaking of psychopathic activities, not ones of intelligence. Um, and yeah, it's an issue that obviously the best kind of form of dealing with would be to prevent, um, rather than propagate or exacerbate. So, vampire became a term. Really, it was like what people like called the uneducated, because they described things in like mystical and magical senses, because they didn't have the rationale of, say, science, for instance, rather than distinguishing fantasy between whatever. But it's actually more of what people ascribe to like dissociative disorder, which is not being able to see things for what they really are. Um, yeah, because like I'm not a fan of the whole like upper lower class concept. Um, but yeah, so vampire became a term to call powerful people capable of unimaginable evil. Uh, that sometimes can come from anywhere. So the concept of human as we understand it today was set apart from the concept of magical fantasy, etc. So before things like rationing and logic were taken to be kind of like accountable, when they had plights or like diseases like lesions in the mouth and like bleeding mouths and things like that, they attributed all of these things to vampires, including all of these superstitions and everything like that. And they thought that ingesting blood would temporarily relieve symptoms, um, but that was not the case. Yeah. And yeah, there's a lot more on this. Like, I've done loads of research. I'm just tired because this is like literally the fifth or sixth take that I've done of this video, and I still don't feel like my hair looks kind of like how I wanted it to. Yeah, so uh, problems in life. So yeah, I researched it as well, a lot the Fear Channel and things like that, because I really like the horror aesthetic. Um, and yeah, I just think it's a really fascinating fantasy character. Um, you know, um, and I really like kind of seeing. I mean, like I'm not a fan. Like I like the ideas of it. I mean, I'm kind of like giving constructive whatever ideas to kind of how I would probably like edit or add things um to the comic idea that would kind of stop it from being, I don't know, just like very like not as substantial with regards to what it's depicting and the information that's out there that is actually needed for people not to have misinformation. So yeah, that's it. Bye.